Now we're going to finally put all of this information together to figure out how to calculate a monopolist's profit. So here we have the case where the monopolist has the downward sloping demand curve as well as the downward sloping marginal revenue curve. And there is a marginal cost curve that is initially decreasing and then increasing, as well as an average total cost curve that that is decreasing as long as marginal cost is below the average total cost, and then increasing once marginal cost begins to exceed the average total cost. Now, to find the monopolist profit, we would just take the point at which marginal revenue equals marginal cost, that is the monopolist's optimal quantity. Down here, say it's Q1. I know it's not on the picture. And that's the quantity the monopolist would want to produce because that's where the increase in revenues from lowering the price is going to be equal to the increase in cost from selling additional units. Now you take this quantity and you move up to the demand curve to find the maximum price the market would be willing to pay for that quantity. And you work your way over, and that's going to be at a price of P1, and we'll say right here. Now, we know profit is just the total revenue, the price sold the monopolist sells at times the number of units the monopolist sells, minus the average total cost for each of those units times the number of units that the monopolist sells. And so the difference between price and average total cost would be here because this optimal quantity Q1 intersects with average total cost here, but the price that the monopolist charged P1 is up here where that optimal quantity intersects with the demand curve. So you could think of this difference right here as the markup, the difference or the increase in price over average total cost, and this markup times the number of units Q1, because remember this goes from 0 to Q1, is the profit. If you're making, say this average total cost was $10 here, and the price sold at was $15, then the difference would be $5. And we would expect then that profit is $5, the difference between the price sold and the average total cost for producing that unit, times the number of units sold, which would be down here at Q1. And so with that, we can see both how to find the price and quantity that a monopolist will sell at, as well as given that quantity and price, what the profits would be. Now, this does not necessarily guarantee that a monopolist will earn positive profits. As you saw earlier, when we were considering a competitive market, we know in the short run that firms could take losses. And this could be the case for monopolists as well, as you'll see in the next slide. If the average total cost curve were to sit above the demand curve at the optimal quantity, then potentially the monopolist could be taking a loss instead. There is an optimal quantity, and it's always going to be where marginal revenue equals marginal cost, and the maximum price will be where that quantity intersects with demand. But if the average total costs were sitting above the demand curve at that quantity, that means the monopolist would be taking a loss on every unit sold. And instead of having a positive economic profit, there would be an economic loss. And again, you will see that on the next slide.